What's up guys, today I'm taking a look at probably the most customizable gel blaster there is. This is the Action Army AAP-01 gas blowback pistol, which is modelled after a 22 caliber Ruger. Aside from it taking 9mm Glock mags, of course. As unique as the Ruger looks, its appearance isn't actually its main selling point, because when you fire it, the only moving part is at the back. This feature allows people to build body kits around it with basically endless possibilities. I've seen some people turn it into a powered drill. I've seen video game guns like the Halo SMG and Halo pistol. There's of course carbine kits that turn it into a rifle. And of course for all you speed softers out there, there's a variety of rainbow coloured CNC parts and HPA adapters you can use with the blaster. For a gel softer, this is essentially a blank canvas. This blaster was kindly sent to me by Tactical Edge Hobbies here in Australia. They're selling it for 425 Australian dollars, but they also gave me a discount code that you guys can use for this pistol if you buy one in the next few weeks. That code will give you 10% off, and the code is just BRADAAP. One word, no spaces. To make today's video review, I also ended up using 2 additional AAPs that I borrowed from other players. This black one here I borrowed from a guy named Phil, and this is the standard AAP as it has a manual safety. I also borrowed a fully upgraded one with an HPA adapter thanks to Chris.
Bang!
My own AAP, which is the Ruger model, had an issue which I'll discuss in a moment. Phil's also had a different issue, and Chris's upgraded one worked flawlessly. I'll begin simply with an overview of the one that Tac Edge sent me, which is the Ruger version. When you first receive the AAP, it'll come in a cardboard box with a nice picture on the front that'll show you what colour you've got. And as I open the box, you'll see that this one has the grey frame. The AAP is predominantly a plastic blaster. Some internals like the bolt are metal, as are the slide lock levers on either side, but the majority of this thing is plastic. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing. It does give it a very light overall weight of 700 grams, and half of that is taken up by the mag itself. Up front, it has a very cool looking thread protector. Unscrewing it reveals a 14mm counterclockwise thread which you could use to add a tracer unit, hop up, or even a simple mock suppressor. The inner barrel ends flush with the end of the threads, and it has a 7mm internal diameter, which I'd say is far too tight. In fact, the major issue I had with mine was that because of the tight barrel, it turned every gel ball larger than 7mm into confetti. The standard AAP that Phil lent me had a blue 7.3mm barrel out of the box, and that was a lot friendlier to standard size gel balls. If you want to buy the Ruger version that I have here, I would highly recommend swapping to a looser fitting barrel or only growing your gels for about 2 hours so that they're much smaller. Moving back from the muzzle, the outer barrel has some slick fluting to it and an imitation red fiber optic sight on top. Further back from there is the ejection port, which you can actually see into when the bolt is locked back. And behind that, there's 2 green fiber optic rear sight posts. Personally, I would have put the green sight at the front since they're brighter. Would have just made it a little bit easier to aim in my opinion. You could always add a Picatinny rail on top and use a red dot sight though, and there's also 2 holes on top to add that rail segment. Additionally, there's also 2 holes below the fluted barrel where you could add a pick rail for something like a flashlight. The upper half of the AAP has a hinged design. Hitting this button on the back allows you to lift it forward and off, and before each game day I'd recommend some basic maintenance such as applying silicone oil to all the moving parts. To close it back up, just reposition the slide, push the button in and press down until you can release the button to lock the slide back in. The grip on this blaster is very comfortable to hold, even if you don't wear gloves. It feels very similar to holding a Glock, which is my personal favourite style of a grip. Also, the slide release is very easy to reach with your thumb, and you lefties will love that it's ambidextrous. Out of the box, this blaster is powered by green gas, so before you use it, just remove the magazine, hold it upside down and push the nozzle of a green gas can into the fill port on the bottom for around 5 seconds. The fill port is aligned with the body of the magazine itself, not the angled mag base, so make sure you ignore the angle of the mag base or you can end up damaging the seal. To load the magazine up with gel balls, you'll want to use a speed loader. Pull the follower down and feed in some gel balls where the channel widens near the bottom, just like any other gas pistol. The magazine should hold around 14 shots total depending on the size of your gel balls and whether or not you get a perfect double stack. When you fire the last shot of the mag, the bolt will lock back ready for you to just drop the empty mag out, insert a fresh mag, hit one of the ambidextrous slide releases, and continue firing. Something you can't really tell from the outside though is that the AAP has select fire. So far I've been shooting it exclusively on semi-auto. Hidden beneath the rear of the slide though is a toggle switch. Flicking it across to the letter A, now it can shoot full auto, which completely empties the mag in under a second. With both my Ruger version and the AAP that Phil lent me, which is the standard version, the bolt would get stuck occasionally halfway into a mag. To keep on firing, I had to simply rack the bolt again, and this is a common complaint even with the airsoft version. And the way to solve this after doing some research is simply to get a stronger recoil and nozzle spring, and perhaps even upgrade to one of those lightweight CNC bolts. When you do have full auto working properly though, I'd say choosing between semi or full auto is definitely a choice you need to make before the game actually starts. Because you do need to pull the slide back in order to change the modes, which will load a second gel ball into the barrel. That's not necessarily a bad thing, you'll just hit your first opponent with a shotgun of 2 gels, but if you don't want to do that, you do have to make that choice before you ever cock the blaster. The trigger on the AAP, much like the magazine compatibility, is Glock style. It has a safety in the center of the trigger which, unless pulled in, won't allow you to fire the blaster. On a real Ruger pistol, you actually have a thumb safety, so I'm not sure why they did a Glock trigger instead, but I don't really mind it. The standard non-Ruger AAP actually does have a manual safety in addition to the Glock style trigger safety, and that's located above the trigger for some reason. That about covers the overview of the blaster though, so now I'll get to some testing. Both the gel balls and the gas I'm using today were kindly provided to me by the Battle for Waterloo Skirmish Field shop. If you live in South Australia, come out for a game and have a look at their stock while you're here. They've got everything you need for a fun day of gel ball, gas, gels, CO2, and even HPA refills. Support your local fields because without them, you have no legal reason to even own a gel blaster. Now, because the 7mm barrel of mine was mincing any gel that I tried to shoot through it, I'm actually using Phil's standard AAP with its 7.3mm stock standard barrel for all of my testing rather than my confetti cannon. So first up we have a Chrono Test, let's see that muzzle velocity.
294, 267, 245, 257, 315, 293, 296, 245, 237, 267, 292, 230, and 231. We're locked back.
On the chronograph, we got a high of 315, a low of 230, and an average of 266. The velocity was fairly inconsistent, but that seems to be a pretty common thing with green gas. If you switch to HPA, like I will be with mine eventually, consistency should go way up. Now, because both mine and Phil's bolts were getting stuck half closed on full auto, and Chris wasn't actually here yet when I was filming the Chrono Test, you just have to trust me that on full auto the rate of fire is 20 gels per second. That's pretty insane for a pistol, and if you fix the bolt stuck issue with a stronger nozzle spring and recoil spring, you could dump the entire mag in less than a second. What I can do though is see how it shoots for accuracy. So I'll be standing at a distance of 20 meters away from a 1 meter diameter target. The more I fired Phil's AAP though, the bolt started to stick with every single shot, even on semi-auto.
Hit.
So you will get to watch me give it a light push with my thumb to close it every single time.
Hit. I have to keep pushing this in. Miss. Hit. Low. Hit. Hit. Low and right. Hit. That dropped way short. Hit. Hit. Low. Low. And that's the last shot, was also low.
Accuracy at 20 meters with the AAP is pretty much on par with any other gel blaster pistol. Out of 14 shots, 7 landed on the target, 1 above and 6 below. I think accuracy is something that can definitely be improved with HPA, since the velocity will also be more consistent. So when the bolt is stuck half closed, if I release the trigger now, that's going to move forward. That means there's only one thing it could be getting stuck on. Now, when you pull the trigger, the only thing that moves is this piece. So that is what the bolt gets stuck on. So what's the final verdict on the AAP? Out of the box, I think upgrading it is pretty much mandatory.
Bang.
Both my AAP and Phil's require stronger nozzle springs and recoil springs to overcome the bolt getting stuck half closed. My Ruger modelled AAP had a very tight 7mm barrel which turned all of my gels into confetti, while Phil's standard model had a looser 7.3mm barrel that didn't have that issue at all. I'd personally recommend getting the standard version unless you don't mind growing gels deliberately undersized to fit that Ruger model's barrel. And of course, Chris's fully upgraded HPA one worked absolutely flawlessly. It was just so much fun using his with the infinite ammo cheat enabled. So in closing, this is definitely not a blaster I'd recommend if you want something that'll work straight out of the box. But if you want something to build on and upgrade and absolutely customize the heck out of, the sky is the limit on the AAP. I'll leave links down below to both the Ruger model, which I wouldn't recommend, and the standard model from Tactical Edge Hobbies. If you pick one of these up in the next 5 weeks, you can use the discount code BRADAAP at checkout to save some money. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting content. And as always, thank you very much for watching. See ya.